Hello, I'm Inspector Clouseau, and I'm here to do a review.
Review? Don't you mean a review?
I know that. That is what I said, you idiot. Just work the camera. Alright, well now that I got your attention, if you can't tell, today I'm going to be doing a review on the Peter Sellers Pink Panther films. The first film in the series is called The Pink Panther, and it's a comedy heist about a notorious jewel thief called the Phantom, who plans on stealing the valuable Pink Panther diamond from the Princess Dala. The Pink Panther is called the Pink Panther because if you look into the diamond, there is a discoloration shaped like a panther. The Phantom is really Playboy Sir Charles Lytton, played by the suave Dave Niven, and on his trail is the incompetent and comical French detective Inspector Clouseau, played by popular British comedian Peter Sellers. Now, this French detective, Clouseau, has tried to stop the Phantom in the past, but he always manages to slip out of his inept grasp. The princess is staying at a ski resort in northern Italy, and Sir Charles is also there in order to get close to the princess, gain her trust, and take the diamond. Helping him out is his lover, Mrs. Clouseau, played by European model Capucine, whose husband is now close to capturing Sir Charles, and Clouseau sets a trap for the jewel thief at a costume party the princess is throwing, but unfortunately he is looking in all the wrong places. This first entry in the series has some good physical comedy from Sellers, including when he falls over objects and he gets his hand stuck in a beer mug at the resort. But the rest of the cast pulls off a well-directed scene when Simone Clouseau is trying to keep her husband from finding Sir Charles and his nephew, who also happens to have a crush on her inside their hotel room. But in my opinion, this is not the best film in the series, and anyone who plans on watching these films for the first time and is expecting the first film to really show off how great the series is may be disappointed. For one, Clouseau is not the complete idiot that we come to love like later in the series. Instead of his exaggerated French accent, he simply speaks in a fake French one. He is also not the star of the film. Niven's character is, although Sellers does steal almost all the scenes that he's in. The pacing seems slower here than the rest of the films, and it's close to 2 hours. The film does have some good moments, but the best would come in the next several films, like this next one, A Shot in the Dark. After a complicated opening to this whodunit film, Inspector Clouseau is called to investigate a murder at the home of an important businessman. A chauffeur has been killed, and it looks like the maid Maria Gambrelli did it, but Clouseau does not believe it. Unfortunately, while trying to find the real murderers, he messes up, including getting arrested 4 times and upsetting his boss, the Commissioner Dreyfus. But soon, an anonymous killer is attempting to kill Clouseau. Who is he? Did he also kill the chauffeur? Well, you'll just have to watch the film and find out. The film features supporting characters that viewers would come to know and love in the rest of the series. The agitated Dreyfus and Cato, Clouseau's servant, who also has martial arts fights with the inspector when he least suspects it. The film also introduces the inspector's love of wearing disguises and features the exaggerated French accent that he is remembered for. The comedy scenes are much better here, including when Clouseau is attempting to put a pool cue back in a rack, and when he finds himself at a nudist colony. If there is one drawback to the film, in my opinion, it is the inspector's sidekick, Hercule, played by actor Graham Stark. I found his character to be bland and really did not add anything except as a straight man to feed the punchlines of Clouseau's. Thankfully, he would not appear as a main character in later films. After A Shot in the Dark, both Sellers and director Blake Edwards wanted to move on to other projects, so United Artists released a film without either of them called The Inspector Clouseau, which came out in 1968, with Alan Arkin in the lead role. The film got bad reviews and did not make as much money as the previous films. Sellers and Edwards returned to the Pink Panther series when 1975's Return of the Pink Panther came out. At this point, the films began to rely more on gags rather than story. The Pink Panther diamond is stolen again, and guess who Clouseau suspects? The Phantom, aka Sir Charles Lytton, this time played by the Sound of Music's Christopher Plummer. Clouseau investigates the museum where the diamond was stolen, and he causes some comical damage himself. Clouseau finds the Phantom's trademark glove, and he believes he will get his revenge. After failing to find Sir Charles after entering his house disguised as a phone repairman, he follows his wife, Lady Claudine, played by Catherine Schell, to a resort in Switzerland and paves way for a series of hilarious attempts to question her about Sir Charles. What Clouseau doesn't know is that Sir Charles was set up and is now forced to clear his name by finding the real culprits. Return of the Pink Panther stands out from the rest of the series because of the exotic locations that was used, and features more outlandish and wilder physical gags than the two previous movies. Christopher Plummer does an excellent job with taking over the Sir Charles role. It can be hard to play a character done by someone else because you may be compared to unfavorably, but Plummer makes the character his own and is more active than Niven, in my opinion. My complaint with this film was the photography. The images did not seem as clear as the other films, and sometimes it looked a little too bright at times. But Return of the Pink Panther does succeed in bringing in a lot of laughs and charm. The Pink Panther Strikes Again is my pick for the best film in the series. The film opens when Chief Inspector Dreyfus, who is about to be released at a sanitarium following being driven on the brink of insanity by Inspector Clouseau's bumbling behavior. But after a disastrous visit from the inspector, Dreyfus goes insane again and escapes, hell-bent on killing Clouseau. He goes as far as to kidnap a professor, making him build a deadly weapon, and giving the world an ultimatum: give me Clouseau or be destroyed. Luckily, the bumbling inspector has been trying to locate him and the professor. What I liked about this film was the funny bits came at the beginning of the film, and I didn't have to wait like the other films for them to come. The film features, in my opinion, the best Clouseau and Cato fight and plenty of visual humor, such as where Clouseau is trying to get into Dreyfus's hideout. I also enjoyed a scene when former President Gerald Ford is watching a football game when Dreyfus tampers with the TV signal and broadcasts his ultimatum message. There may be some people out there that may not get the jokes involving Ford and his cabinet members, but if you do, they are enjoyable. However, Peter Sellers looks frail here, and since he had a series of heart attacks that affected his health at this point, and there are obvious uses of stunt doubles here, but Sellers still manages to shine here. The last Panther film to feature Sellers when he was still alive is Revenge of the Pink Panther. A French gangster wants to kill the inspector because some people in his syndicate thinks he is not strong enough, and he wants to show him, as well as the Godfather, that he is still threatening. So he sends a team of assassins to try and kill him. The premise is interesting because the gangster thinks Clouseau is dead when in fact he is still alive, and now Clouseau is forced to be undercover in order to finish this case. The film for me was a bit of a step down from Return and Strikes Again, but there are still a few moments I liked, such as Cato giving more to do as Clouseau's sidekick, and the inspector gets a car called the Silver Hornet, which is a knockoff of the Green Hornet. But I thought the script was kind of run-of-the-mill and contained elements people may find out of date, like there's knockoff of Kung Fu films, The Godfather, and there's even a look at disco. It has its moments, but for me, it's just not the best in the series. The last film to feature footage of Peter Sellers is Trail of the Pink Panther, which features footage of Sellers cut from other Panther films, mostly from Strikes Again, and new footage of the rest of the cast. It starts off decently in my opinion. The Pink Panther is stolen again, and Clouseau is going after it. But then after some funny sequences with Clouseau, including one where he accidentally sets his office on fire and one where he's wrecking a hotel, the character just disappears, and it turns into sort of like a Citizen Kane type movie when a reporter played by Joanna Lumley talks to the other characters about Clouseau, including Sir Charles, once again played by David Niven, Cato, and Dreyfus. This film was intended as a tribute to Sellers, especially when the characters say there will never be another Clouseau, or people like Clouseau don't die then, and stuff like that, but the film to me just felt kind of disjointed. Personally, I recommend just watching the Sellers footage rather than the whole film. After that, Blake Edwards made only 2 more Pink Panther films without Sellers. Curse of the Pink Panther, which has an American equivalent played by Ted Wass looking for a Clouseau played in a cameo appearance by Roger Moore, and Son of the Pink Panther, starring Roberto Benigni as Inspector Clouseau's son. Both films did not do very well at the box office, So I do recommend watching the Pink Panther films. If you got a lot of free time, go ahead and watch them in order that they were released. But if you're not sure and you only got time to watch one or two of them, personally, I recommend starting with A Shot in the Dark and then The Pink Panther Strikes Again. In my opinion, those two are probably the best films in the series, and you'll still get a taste of what they're all about. Well, that's it for this edition of R&B Reviews. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you later.